Now, if we talk about the bandwidth of a resonant circuit, when obviously when you change your frequency, and at a particular frequency, which is a resonant frequency, what happens is your impedance decreases to its minimum value, which is R, and your current increases to its maximum value. And on the both side of this frequency, obviously this current has to decrease. Obviously from the maximum value, in the both ways, if you decrease the frequency from F0 or increase, the value of current should decrease, right? So the graph or the curve of current which is drawn with respect to frequency can be used to represent the bandwidth of the particular circuit. So by the definition of bandwidth, uh, the range of frequency, which is this one, the range of frequencies over which the current value decreases to the 70.7% of the maximum value, 70.7% of the maximum value on these range of frequencies are called the bandwidth of that particular circuit. So 70.7, what does it mean? If you obviously, if you divide Im by under root 2 and multiply it with 100 to get it into percentage, it will become as 70.7% of Im, right? So by the definition, at F0, your current Im is maximum. So for any circuit, I is basically V upon Z. So at resonance, Z is equal to R. So at resonance, I will become Im and its value will be V upon R, right? This is the maximum value of current. So what will happen at these two frequencies, at F1 and F2? At F1 and F2, what will happen? Your current I is nothing but Im upon under root 2, right? But also, you know that Im value is V upon R. So let us write it as V upon R divided by under root 2, which will equal to V upon under root 2 R, right? But from here, you know that I is equal to V upon Z. So at frequencies F1 and F2, if you compare these two equations or these two denominators under root 2R and Z, we can say that the value of impedance, the whole impedance of the circuit Z will be equal to under root 2R. At what frequencies? At F1 and F2. Clear? So also you know that Z is equal to under root R square plus x square. Here x is nothing but xl minus xc, right? So from and this x is basically the resultant reactance of the circuit. So we can say that from this and this, under root r square plus x square is equal to under root 2r, and if we compare this, we will find that x is equal to r. So this is very important outcome. X, or the reactive part, or the reactive impedance, which is called reactance, will be equal to R at these cutoff frequencies F1 and F2. At F1 and F2. So this is very important outcome. So since at F, let us take the first case of at F1. So in the previous diagram, you saw that in all the frequencies below F0, the circuit was behaving as capacitive, where your Xc value was greater than XL, and all the frequencies beyond F0, the circuit was behaving inductive, where XL was greater than Xc. So let us use that. So at F1, F1 is basically your frequency which is below F0, right? F1 is below F0. So here your circuit will be behaving as capacitive. So you can say that this X value, which is equal to R, is basically a capacitive value. So the Z value, you can write it as R minus JX, right? Because it is capacitive. So it can also be written as R minus JR at F1. So if you draw the phasor for this particular impedance, this is your R, this is your X, which is equal to R. And if you draw it, this will be your final Z. So what will be the value of theta? Theta will be tan inverse minus R upon R, which is equal to minus 45 degree. So if you want to calculate power factor at frequency F1 is basically cos theta, and it will come out to be uh, R divided by Z, which is nothing but R divided by under root 2R, which will be 1 by root 2. So your power factor is 1 by root 2, and it is leading or lagging. Since this is a capacitive circuit, the current leads, so the power factor at F1 will be leading, right? Similarly, at if you want to calculate the same thing as F2, it is inductive, and I'm going to directly write Z as R plus JR, because obviously it is inductive, so we have taken plus J, and this will be the phasor of impedance, and definitely theta is going to be tan inverse R by R, which is equal to plus 45 degree, and obviously the power factor is going to be 1 by root 2, similar to this, but it will be lagging. Clear? So we have calculated the power factor and also shown you the phasor diagram of impedances at the cutoff frequency of F1 and F2. So by the definition of bandwidth will be equal to F2 minus F1, or if you want to represent it in the terms of rotation per second, uh, we can call it as W2 minus W1, right? Now let us try to find out the value of this bandwidth in terms of circuit parameter like R, L, and C, as we did for quality factor, where we got quality factor as omega L by R or 1 upon omega CR. So for this, we have to first take at F1, let's take the frequency of F1. So what happened at F1? Obviously, the value of X was equal to R. So what is X? X is basically XL minus XC, right? Since it is capacitive, let me tell it XC minus XL. Oh, wait. XC minus XL, because basically XC is greater than XL, and it was equal to R. What is the XC? 1 upon omega 1C. I am calling it omega 1 because the frequency is F1, right? So 1 upon omega 1C minus omega 1L should be equal to R, right? So this is going to be your equation 1. Similarly, at F2, X is again equal to R, but here we will, since the circuit is inductive, we will say XL minus XC is equal to R, which means omega 2L minus 1 upon omega 2C is equal to R. This is your equation number 2, right? So what we will do is divide 1 and 2 and solve these equation, and solving this equation we will get as you do it at your home. Divide this equation 1 and 2 and solve for omega 1 and omega 2, and you will get omega 1 into omega 2 is equal to 1 upon LC. So in a resonant circuit, do you remember what is 1 upon LC? It is basically the resonant frequency squared, because you already knew resonant frequency omega 1 naught came out to be 1 upon under root LC, right? So from here, you can say that omega naught is related to these cutoff frequencies omega 1, omega 2 as like this. So this is an important outcome. So the resonant frequency can be represented as the root of multiplication of the cutoff frequency omega 1 and omega 2. Now similarly, if we add those equation 1 and 2, these two equations 1 and 2, if we add and solve them, we will get 1 by c 1 upon omega 1 minus 1 upon omega 2 plus L omega 2 minus omega 1 is equal to 2R. So this, from here we will get omega 2 minus omega 1 upon omega 1 into omega 2 into 1 by c plus L omega 2 minus omega 1 is equal to 2R. So what is omega 1 into omega 2? It is nothing but omega naught square, and which is nothing but 1 upon LC. So from here you will get L into omega 2 minus omega 1 plus again L into omega 2 minus omega 1 is equal to 2R. So these two are same, so it will basically become 2 times, and you can cancel out this, so you will get omega 2 minus omega 1, which is basically the bandwidth, will be equal to R divided by L. This is a very important outcome. So if you want to represent it in hertz, so F2 minus F1 is equal to 1 upon 2 pi into R by L, right? So this is the equation of bandwidth of a series RLC resonant circuit, which is equal to the ratio of resistance and inductance. Important formula. You must have all studied about differential equations in your mathematics classes, but I don't know how many of you must be knowing about the real application of these differential equations. So I'm going to show you one very interesting application of differential equations. So what we are going to do is we are going to take a simple RLC circuit. Let us apply a voltage source V here, and let the current will be, let me call it small I. Let the current will be IT, right? If we write KVL equation across this particular circuit, so you will get V is equal to obviously IR plus LdI by dt plus 1 by C integration of I dt. This all you already know, that voltage across inductor is LdI by dt and voltage across capacitor is 1 by C integration of I dt. Remember your network theory basic lectures, right? So this is how we can write our KVL equation. So let me divide both sides or differentiate both sides with respect to t again. So what we will get? We will get V dash is equal to R into di by dt plus L d2i dt2 plus I upon C. So this is the case when your circuit was excited by some voltage source, right? So let me assume a case where there was a circuit, and initially either inductor or capacitor was charged to a particular value, and then the circuit was left to respond by itself. So what we will do is we would like to try to see the response or the behavior of current which flows inside the circuit. So I already told you that when there are two energy storage elements, two different kind of energy storage elements like inductor and capacitor is there, what will happen is the energy will be flowing or jumping between them with the means of current, right? So since the energy is jumping from here to here and from inductor to capacitor and vice versa, the current will also be behaving or jumping in the circuit in one direction and then again back to the other direction. So all we want to do is, by using the differential equations analysis, I would like to see the behavior or the graph of current I depending on these circuit parameter R, L, and C. So we will mathematically calculate it. So what the differential equation, the solution of these differential equations will do is, they will find the value of I, a mathematical representation of I with respect to time, and these electrical parameters like R, L, and C. So since in this case we have not taken any source, so we will take V as 0. So what we will do is we will put it as 0. So this is a source free case, and if we write the differential equation of this equation, source free equation, it can be like this: dl d2i upon dt2 plus r di by dt plus I upon c is equal to 0. So let us divide both the sides by L. So we will get d2i by dt2 plus r by L di by dt plus I upon LC. So let me call d by dt as capital D. So, and take I as common from this equation. So it will be like d2t upon dt2 will become d square plus r by L into d plus 1 upon LC multiplied by I will be equal to 0. So this is your equation 1, right? So if you remember the differential equations from mathematics, let me write this equation again: d square plus r by L d plus 1 upon LC into I is equal to 0. So if you remember your differential equations lectures from mathematics, you will see that this differential equation can have different solutions based on the roots of this equation. So depending on the roots of this equation, we can have different solution. So and let me tell you also that we have taken this d as d dt and a differential with respect to time. And what is getting differentiated? This current value I, right? So there is a standard form. We write any differential equation in which you are going to study about this form in more detail in control systems. So I'm not going to go deep into it, but I'm just writing that standard form of second order differential equation, which is like this: s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square is equal to 0. So here what I have done is I have just written d in terms of s, right? So you are going to study all about this in detail in control system, and even a little bit in the Laplace transforms analysis in network also, and in mathematics. So if you compare these two, this d square plus r by L d plus 1 upon LC with respect to this equation, you are going to get is 2 zeta omega n is equal to r by L, and omega n square is equal to 1 upon LC. So you must be knowing this term omega n. I already told you this is called natural frequency of any circuit, right? And this zeta term you might not be familiar with. So this zeta is called damping ratio. You will slowly understand what is the significance of this term zeta or damping ratio. But let us move on. From here, we can say omega n is equal to 1 upon under root LC. And this was nothing but the value of resonant frequency that we calculated in any RLC series circuit, right? So this natural frequency come out to be 1 upon under root LC. And if we put it here, we can find the value of zeta. So also this 2 zeta omega n term came out to be R by L. What was R by L? it was nothing but bandwidth. We just calculated in the previous slides. So this the multiplication of this S term or this D term or d by dt represents the bandwidth of any circuit, and the constant term, which is 1 upon LC, represents the square of the natural frequency term. Getting it? So just by seeing at the differential equation of any circuit in a standard form, we can find the bandwidth of that particular circuit and even the natural frequency of oscillation. So moving further, if we put the value of omega n in this particular equation, we will find zeta is equal to R by L, R by 2 under root C by L. Since we are talking about resonance, we knew that Q was equal to omega L upon R, or you can also write 1 upon omega CR. So from here, omega naught was the resonant frequency. So if we put the value of omega as 1 upon under root LC, we will find Q is equal to 1 by R under root L by C. So the equation for Q will come out to be 1 by R under root L by C. So I want you to find a relationship between this Q and this zeta. Can you see any relation between this equation R by 2 under root C by L and 1 by R under root L by C? They look approximately or almost reciprocal to each other. So you will find as zeta as nothing but 1 upon 2Q. You just see this is nothing but the reciprocal of this particular thing, but with an extra 2 here, right? So you can write zeta is equal to 1 upon 2Q, or in opposite, you can write Q is equal to 1 upon 2 zeta. So zeta is called the damping ratio and Q is called the quality factor of any circuit. So these two are inversely proportional to each other. Now let's come back to this equation. S square is equal to it is not is equal to S square plus 2 zeta omega ns plus omega n square is equal to 0. If we solve this equation with respect to S, what we will get, you know already that for a second order algebraic equation, which is, let me change the color. Suppose you have an equation ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Then what will be the value of x? Minus b plus minus under root b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. So using this particular thing, if we apply here, we can find the value of S as minus 2 zeta omega n plus minus under root 2 zeta omega n squared minus 4 omega n square, and whole is divided by 2. So we can simply write it as S is equal to minus zeta omega n plus minus omega n taken as common under root zeta square minus 1. So this is very important. As you can see, this zeta term has come inside the root. So if you remember differential equation of second order, when the roots of any differential equation, second order differential equation, are real number and different, then the solution of that particular differential equation will be of the form this. Suppose this, do you remember this S is basically d dt of what? I, right? We were taking the differential of current with respect to time. So if you solve this particular differential equation using these roots, let me call, if the roots are different and real, let me call them alpha 1 and alpha 2, then what is going to be the solution? Solution is going to come for the current I. For those who are not able to understand it clearly, you have to revise the differential equation part of your mathematics. So this IT will come out to be C1, C1 and C2 are going to be the constant. So C1 e to the power alpha 1t plus C2 e to the power alpha 2t. Some of you must be remembering it. So if the roots of this particular solution are real and different, the equation which is the solution of this differential equation it is going to be purely exponential. So the response of this particular circuit, the current response of this particular circuit, source free circuit, because I have removed the source, remember here we are talking about this circuit, I have initially charged anything either capacitor or inductor and then left the circuit to respond on its own. So obviously it will be maximum, and due to this resistance some form of energy will keep dissipated in the form of heat and the current will decrease. But we want to know in what manner it decreases. Does it decreases exponentially or it decreases sinusoidally? So that is what we are going to analyze using these mathematical differential equations. So if the roots of this differential equations are real and different, we got a pure exponential curve. So it will be like this. Now, in other case, if the roots are same, but again real, both roots are same and real, in that case also, the solution will be C1 e to the power alpha t plus C2 into t into e to the power alpha t. This is all there in your mathematics lectures. So here also you can see that the curve is going to be purely exponential. And in the third case, if your roots are complex, let me call them alpha plus minus j beta. The complex roots are always going to be in this form. Then your solution IT must be like this: C1 e to the power alpha t cos beta t plus C2 e to the power alpha t sine beta t. So from here you can see that one part is exponential and other part is sinusoidal. So if you draw the graph for this, you will find something like this. You will find something like this. So you will see that although this graph is exponentially decreasing, it is decreasing with some oscillation, and these oscillations are because of these cos and sine terms. In time t, this is your current I, and this exponentially decrease is because of this term e to the power alpha t, right? So let us understand how can we control these decrease mechanism. Either it can be exponential or it can be oscillatingly decreasing. It can be controlled by which term? If you observe this particular term in the solution of differential equation, which is minus zeta omega n plus omega n under root zeta square minus 1. So for both these roots to be real and different, this zeta square minus 1 term must be real, must be greater than positive, sorry, it must be greater than 0. So what will happen is, if zeta square minus 1 term is greater than 1, let me write it on a clear page first. We got the solution of our differential equation as s is equal to minus zeta omega n plus minus omega n under root zeta square minus 1. Right? So if you want your roots to be real and different, obviously this term should be greater than 0, which means zeta square minus 1 should be greater than 0, which means zeta should be greater than 1. Clear? Zeta cannot be negative, zeta should be greater than 1. So in this case, our roots will become Let me call it as case 1. In this case, our roots will be real and different, and we already saw that the curve is going to be exponentially decreasing, the curve of current IT. So we can say that this particular case is called overdamped. So the current is basically damping, but since it is overdamped, we are not going to see the oscillations, we are going to see exponential decrease. And even in the second case, when we want our roots to be real and exactly the same, then in that case, this has to become zero, right? This has to become zero, because if this term is zero, all you will get is this term, and your both the values of your roots will be going to be minus zeta omega n. So in that case, in the case 2, zeta square minus 1 is equal to 0, which means zeta exactly equal to 1. This particular case is called critically damped. And in this case also, we just saw that our response of current is going to be exponentially decreasing. So either it is in overdamped or it is in critically damped, our response is going to be exponentially decreasing, and we are not going to see any oscillations in the circuit, right? Now, the third and the last case, if we want this equation, this solution to have complex conjugate roots, then this quantity must become imaginary. This quantity must become imaginary. And for imaginary, for V to get imaginary, the value inside the root should be a negative value, which means zeta square minus 1 should be less than 0, which means zeta should be less than 1, or you can say greater than 0. So zeta should be between 0 to 1, and this particular case is called underdamped. Underdamped case. So in underdamping case, we already saw that our response will be like this. So there will be oscillation with a natural frequency of omega n, but at the same time it will be exponentially decreasing. So this is going to be your current response. So to find a resonant circuit, to find a circuit which is resonating, or uh, it has to have the circuit, the current oscillations in it, you need to have your damping ratio less than 0 and greater than 1. The damping ratio should be between 0 to 1. So obviously, if your damping ratio is 0 to 1, it is underdamped and there will be oscillations. And if there is oscillations, then only you are going to match it with some source frequency to get your circuit under resonance. So as I already told you that Q was inversely proportional to zeta. So if zeta is very less, you are going to have more oscillations. And if you are going to have more oscillations, you are going to have a very better Q value. So remember, to get a good quality factor, which means to get a good energy storage in your circuit, you need to have your zeta value to be very low. Yeah. Now to discuss the differential equations and its solution was to give you an idea about how the parameters R, L and C uh, can be used to control the behavior of any circuit, whether it will oscillate or it will not oscillate, whether the current will have a sinusoidal waveform or it will have an exponentially decreasing waveform. It can all be controlled by the control of the parameter R, L and C, right? So using the differential equation, we saw just that. And now we will do a couple of examples so that we are more comfortable in this topic. Now in this example, we have given a circuit and we have to calculate the values of resonant frequency, quality factor, damping ratio, bandwidth, the cutoff frequency of the bandwidth and current at resonant frequency. So let us find first of all the resonant frequency F naught, and from the formula it is 1 upon 2 pi under root LC. So L is 1 Henry and C is 1 Farad. We can directly find it as 1 upon 2 pi. Now, this is basically hertz. Now, if we want to find Q, we can directly put it in the series RLC quality factor formula, which is 1 by R under root L by C. And if you put it, you will get quality factor as 4. It is a dimensionless quantity, obviously. Now, if we want to find zeta, which is damping ratio, and we already know that the zeta is 1 upon 2Q, or you can also say at R by 2 under root C by L. And if we put all the values, we will get our zeta to be 1 upon 8. Zeta to be 1 upon 8. Again, if we want to find our bandwidth, we already know that bandwidth is nothing but F naught upon Q value. Remember, uh, Q was, Q came out to be F naught upon bandwidth. So bandwidth is F naught upon Q. So it will be equal to, what is our F naught? 1 upon 2 pi. And what is our Q? It is 4. So our bandwidth will come out to be 1 upon 8 pi hertz. Uh, so I think I had missed telling you this particular relationship. So let me first tell you. You already know that Q is equal to omega L upon R, right? And this is your resonant frequency. So you can write it omega naught upon R upon L. And we just saw that our value R by L came out to be our bandwidth, omega 2 minus omega 1. This is nothing but your bandwidth. And what is your omega naught? This is your resonant frequency. Okay. So we can say that Q is our omega naught divided by bandwidth in terms of radiation per rotation per seconds, which is omega. So we can also write it as 2 pi f naught upon 2 pi f2 minus f1. So this 2 pi got cancelled. So we will also have it in this form of f naught upon bandwidth quality factor. So the quality factor is basically the ratio of resonant frequency and bandwidth. Clear? Now again, coming back to the question, we already know that multiplication of f1 and f2 is nothing but f naught square. So from here we will get f1 into f2 is equal to, what is your f naught? Your f naught is 1 upon 2 pi. So it will be 1 upon 2 pi squared. Also, you know that your bandwidth f2 minus f1 came out to be 1 upon 8 pi. So from this and this, we are going to find the value of f1 and f2. So how to find it? We already know that f1 plus f2 squared minus f1 minus f2 squared is equal to 4 f1 f2. This is simple mathematical relation. Here you already know the value of f1 f2 from here, and already know the value of f1 minus f2 from here. So using these two, you will find an equation of f1 plus f2 is equal to something you will find, right? So I want you to solve, since you will find the value of f1 plus f2 from here. This will become your equation number 2, and f2 minus f1 you already have. This is your equation number 1, and solving these equation 1 and equation 2, you will find the value of f1 and f2. So I'm not going to solve it. You can easily solve it and find the answer. Now they have asked the value of current at resonant frequency. So we, at resonance, we already know that I is equal to V upon Z, and Z is basically R at resonance. So whenever it is not specified, we will always calculate the RMS values. So I already told you that by default, we will be taking RMS value. So we already have this equation for V, which is 10 sine omega t, and this value is Vm. So the RMS value of this V is going to be Vm by root 2, which is 10 divided by under root 2. And we already have the value of R as 0.25 ohm. So from this, we will get 40 by root 2 ampere. So this is how we will calculate all the values for this question. Now, let us see this last example of this lecture. In this lecture, we have to find the voltage across this coil, which is a combination of resistor and inductor. So basically in practical inductors, there is also a series resistance we have already discussed. So we have to find this V coil voltage. And if nothing is specified, you will take all the voltages and currents as RMS value. Already I have told you. So how to find the value V coil? And it is also given that this circuit is at resonance, right? This circuit is at resonance. So to find the value of V coil, you have to find the value of VR, VL, both. Or you have to find the value of VC and then somehow decrease it with 2V to find the value of coil. But since this is an AC circuit, we cannot directly apply KVL, as I already told you. So let us find a different approach in solving this question. So do we know any other relationship between the voltages across capacitor, inductor, and the resistor voltage? Yes, we actually know. So in resonant circuit, there is a factor called quality factor. We already discussed, and its value is VL upon VR, and VR is basically the source voltage in resonance. So also the value of Q is what? 1 upon R under root L upon C, right? So if we solve it, we put all the values, we already have all the values of R, L and C. If we put, we will get our quality factor to be 2. So 2 is equal to VL upon VR. VR is equal to the source voltage V, which is 2 volt. So from here, we will get VL as 4 volts, right? So in a resonance, VR is equal to 2 volt, and VL we calculated is to be 4 volt, and why VR is 2 volt? It is equal to the source voltage, right? So if you want to calculate the voltage V coil, you have to find the phasor combination of the voltages across resistor and inductor. I already told you that since this is an AC circuit, you cannot directly add voltage across inductor and capacitor, or sorry, voltage across inductor and resistor. So if you draw the phasor, what you will see, this is your VL, this is your VR, and the combination of these two will give you V coil or this voltage. So this is basically your 2 volts, this is 4 volts. So how will you calculate this? You are going to calculate it like this: VR square plus VL square, which is equal to under root 2 square plus 4 square, which will come out to be under root 20 volts. So this is how you can calculate the answer for this question.